Welcome to the King James Virgin, where each and every week my friends Alan and Adam recount Bible stories from their childhoods to me. I've never heard them before. My name is Nick.
My name's Alan.
My name is Adam.
And I promised this week would be Samuel Part 2, and
We lied!
I changed my mind, which I can do.
We didn't. It wasn't so much that we changed our mind. We just realized that we needed to do a bit of a prequel.
Yeah, in order to talk about the Tabernacle, we feel like Nick needed to know more about the Tabernacle.
So Samuel Part 1 is like episode 4.
Yes.
And we're going back.
We're doing like, this is like Attack of the Clones. It's like honestly, in the middle of.
Well, and I plan to do just like one. I plan to do like one episode and then come back to Samuel.
Yeah.
But there might be like 3.
Sure.
It's undetermined.
Well, I don't know if I will enjoy it or not, which is obviously the point of this program. But
I presume a social experiment to see how much can we like put weird things in Nick's head and see that he sticks with it.
I mean, every episode,
you guys have been
You
guys have been posting my like pitchfork style ratings on all of these episodes, right?
100%
posted. Okay.
100%.
Yeah. There's been no best new music.
I do appreciate I do appreciate the context given, because let's take a walk over to Nick's corner real quick.
You got pillows over here.
One of the aggravating things about the podcast to me.
Great.
I love where this podcast is going already.
Is simply the context thing, or like that it's so out of order that my fucking brain is like, where are we? You know, like story wise.
I know retrospectively we probably should have gone in order.
Yeah, but
we didn't.
All of those people,
and fuck you, I guess.
But also all of those people who like yearly would read the Bible cover to cover. Fuck them.
Yes.
It also seems like had we done that, we might have only gotten 14 episodes in,
for sure.
You know, like that level of burden to just like slog through the thing.
And then we'd be doing this exact thing over again.
So we can leave my corner now. You know how I feel. I'm glad that we're getting some context today.
We're just keeping you from getting Alzheimer's. Like we're stretching your brain. I
appreciate that.
Forcing you to like,
I appreciate
reconnect synapses.
Because I do use deodorant with aluminum.
Yeah.
Well, and today I almost feel like even though it's not a story episode, you might appreciate it more because it's world building.
Great.
Oh,
well, that's kind of Adam's thing, not mine.
Well, sure. Okay. Well, there's cubits.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's do it.
Which is an arm, right?
Yes.
Oh God.
Every time I forget what a cubit is.
Refer back to, I think the ark, the Noah and the ark.
Yeah.
Is that our first cubit?
I think that's our cubit.
There's no sacks of eggs this time, so that's good.
Okay, great.
And the king's foot is not involved.
All right.
We're just in cubits. So today we're talking about the Tabernacle, and Adam, why don't you set up like why the Tabernacle came into existence? Like, give us a little bit of a recap.
Yeah. So
first,
basically, you know how we covered the children of Israel leaving Egypt?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they get a little ways into the desert, and God's like, all right, now that you're out here and you can't go back because we've burned that bridge, I'm going to basically like add some religion to what we're doing here.
He frees them, and then he just slowly introduces more and more rules.
Correct.
This is like, I mean, is this the basis for future youth groups?
Yeah,
sort of.
I mean,
hey guys, I know you're enjoying playing free Contra right now, but we're going to start to introduce little bit
Jesus. No, I mean, it's
basically.
So one of the things that happened, I can't remember if we covered this earlier, but we talked about the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud, essentially.
No.
So
we did, but
just
briefly. It was a while ago.
So one of the things that happened when they left Egypt is God manifested himself essentially as this at night pillar of fire, and during the day a pillar of essentially a cloud that would block the sun so that they would be walking in the shade, and then at night be a heat source.
Nick, do you remember when Moses parted the Red Sea?
Yes.
So when Egypt was like hot on their asses, God formed these things to kind of do like smokescreen between Egypt.
So the Israelites could like run through the
and that's just how he continues to communicate with them, or
it's not communicate. It's basically just like being ever present.
I see.
He's a holy dust devil
entity. Yeah. I mean, he's just there.
Yeah.
So essentially like God's there, a presence, like he's just an ever present presence. Doesn't really make any sense, but it doesn't matter. And
it's the Bible. None of it does.
He doesn't particularly communicate to Israelites beyond that their God is somewhere in the middle of that pillar. Every time they camp for any length of time, they set up the tabernacle, which is, well, I'm sure we'll go over the dimensions of it.
Oh yeah. But right when they get across the Red Sea, they're like, and now what?
Right.
And there's a few things that happen that we will jump back and cover.
But remember that
one of them is the 10 Commandments, which I know you're aware of.
Yeah.
So this is after Moses writes down the 10 Commandments, and like this is to make a home for them,
and
sort of.
And basically, Moses starts bringing in kind of the vestiges. He brings back the sacrificing that Adam and Eve did, the Cain and Abel, sort of that whole situation. He kind of codifies it and gives like, these are how you will basically atone for your sins until the Messiah eventually comes, which is, this is all pointing down to Jesus.
Yeah.
Or not, depending on
Sure.
where you land on the religious spectrum. One of these is that they need to set up a priesthood, which is headed by Aaron, Moses' brother, initially. And then apparently I didn't realize, for some reason, it just slipped past me that it is hereditary, that goes down. I mean, I knew it was all part of that same tribe.
Levi,
thank you. Like all the Levites are, the priests all come from Levi. Not all Levites are priests, but all the priests are Levites. Anyway, there is a high priest, and then there's, I don't know how many priests, there probably is a number, but essentially the tabernacle is set up as literally the place where the presence of God exists completely. Which I know I said was in the pillar, but it's kind of a manifestation of multiple places.
Sure.
I mean, should I go into what the tabernacle is, or do you want to just...
let's do a walkthrough.
Okay.
So let's start at the outside.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. When God tells you to do something, sometimes it's super vague.
Yeah.
But in some cases, it should be more vague.
Okay.
And this is one of those cases because he goes through how many cubits wide and tall and how many pillars and what the little rings should be made out of. And like these poles should be this kind of wood, but you better gold coat them.
Well,
And you weren't kidding about the thread count too.
10 of them.
Like the fabrics need to be this. And also consider, this is a group of people who are wandering through the desert.
Right.
I don't know where they're getting these resources to spec.
Right. Yeah.
Well, apparently they were instructed by God, of course, because it wasn't looting, to take some like treasure from Egypt.
I see. Oh, I do remember that, because like people were basically like throwing stuff at them, just like
Their neighbors were, heavy air quotes, giving them stuff as they left.
Yeah. Sure.
It definitely wasn't like looting.
See, it's funny. Like it probably was looting. In my mind, it was buying off. Like essentially, like, hey, would you put in a good word with your God, because he just killed my firstborn son, and I don't want him to keep killing people. So here, take my really nice cloth.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll be enough to like, I just owned a falafel stand. I don't know why the hell why the hell like your God and Pharaoh's argument somehow affected me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
If it was up to me, I'd be like, hey, buddy, bring that falafel stand on the road with us.
exactly. Oh, that'd be good. So
I'm hungry now.
why do we do this when we're always, it doesn't matter. So essentially there's this outer wall of cloth, which Alan's going to give dimensions because I can't remember.
It is 100 cubits by 50 cubits.
Fascinating.
There are 20 pillars along each side and then 10 pillars on the front and back, which makes sense if it's,
Halved.
halved.
Yep.
And they specify made of fine woven linen. And the 20 sockets, I'm assuming that's like how the pillars attach to the linen, shall be bronze. But then the hooks on the pillars, their bands shall be silver. I'm telling you, it's like,
Yeah.
they really go into
Wow.
it. The gate is 15 cubits.
At the front.
Okay. And so to be clear, this is a permanent, semi-permanent, movable structure.
Movable.
Okay.
It would be torn
Because
down and reset up every time they moved.
Yeah.
They moved along.
Okay.
Do you know when you wait in line, how we used to as teenagers, at the movie theater, and they'd have like those long rows of the pillars with the snappy seatbelts between them?
Stanchions.
Yeah. Imagine it's that in a giant 2x1
But like,
rectangle.
but like
Yeah,
12 feet tall.
I like the idea that both the idea of a full movie theater is, well, one, terrifying.
Yep.
Two, impossible now.
Yep.
Three, like nostalgic. Like, remember when people went to the movie theater?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I miss it, but that's,
If only I could wait in a line again.
But also, don't you feel like when I went to movies semi-recently, it's been a while for me, even pre this pandemic.
Chillins.
But
do it to you.
I feel like recently, you buy your tickets on Fandango or whatever online, and then you like show up, check in, and walk in.
Yeah.
But as a teen, I distinctly remember waiting in at least a line of 10 people.
Yeah. Sneaking or like
Every
up to
time.
the front of the box office.
Absolutely.
In the mall.
Yep.
Because the movie theater is in the mall. Anyway,
Yeah, I agree.
hence my nostalgia.
Sure.
I don't miss that part. I do like just like walking up. And I also love that a lot of theaters are moving towards assigned seating. So much better.
I know, but there was some like buildup of anticipation, like waiting in line.
See,
like,
you say that.
Oh my God.
The problem was
you go get popcorn, you pee, we'll meet here.
The problem was in college, I was the person who would get there like a half hour, 45 minutes early because I wanted to get seats. And then every single person that was coming to this, and it was always like a group of 20, would be like, hey, I'm going to come in like right at the end. Can you save seats? And it'd be me with like every article of clothing that I could take off, like
you're
stretched
naked
over
in the middle row.
and getting just like fighting off all these people who want to encroach on the seats, rightfully so. And so like, fuck those people.
I guess you shouldn't have been so popular.
I don't think I was. I think I was just like the guy who was there.
Oh, well, you were the guy that would get the seats. Yeah, cool.
But
we're all going to go to dinner. You go to the...
No, and it would be like I would be leaving 45 minutes before they would because I was like, I want to actually not sit on the edge.
Yeah.
And none of you are going to be.
Right.
So
you are also a stickler about theater seating placement.
100%. Yes. If I can't be dead center, what's the fucking point? Anyway, all of this has nothing to do with the Tabernacle. There's one entrance. Inside there is the courtyard. I'm sorry. And there is then a smaller tent about 2/3 the way down, which I think it actually does say the exact measurements of where this tent should be placed.
Oh, let me bring it up. I have diagrams.
Do you want me to keep talking while you're looking it up?
The really small. Okay, let's see. So you enter the gate. First, you have the altar of burnt offering.
Yep. Which is where all of the people would come in and do their burnt offering.
We're still open air.
Yes. This is all open air. Like it's open top, I should say. Sides are...
So there's, like...
Stanchions.
Cloth walls and... Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, taller than stanchions. Like stanchions give the impression that's only like waist high. This is like, you couldn't see inside from the outside.
Sure.
Right. So let's see. It is... are we in feet? Is this one in cubits? Yeah. We're 27 and a half cubits to the burnt offering. And then we're an additional... Looks roughly about the same to the laver.
That's where you pee.
No, it's the hand washing thing, right?
Right.
Ooh, don't want to pee there.
If no one's looking.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to see it in the sand, so.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, it's like where the priests would go to wash their hands before going into the holy place. Mm-hmm. So the tent is broken up into two places, the holy place and then the most holy place.
And this is... We're talking about this because this is the setting for that first part of Samuel, right?
So
correct.
Basically, once Israelites moved in and settled permanently, they then physically built the tabernacle, not as cloth tents, but as a physical building.
I see.
And then continued on. So like notoriously, like the Temple of Solomon, like Solomon built this like insanely nice temple. I mean, it was a massive cultural touchstone. So like,
Well, when the Israelites like stopped moving this tent structure, it had been there for 369 years when we started the story of Samuel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's still a tent.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show Nick a quick picture just so he has like a little bit in his mind.
Totally.
So it's not totally crazy.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
See,
Okay.
Like it's got tent walls.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
there's like some altars and shit.
So we have the inner sanctum.
So yeah, you basically have the courtyard, and then you have this second tent that's about 2/3 of the way back, and then like Alan said, you run into the altar of burnt sacrifice. You then have the hand washing station essentially, and then behind that, about 2/3 of the way back, is this bigger tent, and it takes off. What are the cubits on what that tent takes up? Do you know?
So that tent, the outer tent, is not the wall, the tent.
Yeah.
It looks like 9 cubits by 30 cubits.
Okay. Oh, so that's bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah, but considering it's 9 by 30 inside 50 by 100, it's
Right.
It's wee.
Yeah.
And this is the like not everybody can walk into this.
So
one.
yeah, only the priests can go into the holy place.
Okay.
And so it's again, that's why it's a full
you gotta
tent.
wash your hands first.
You got to wash your hands.
It's good practice.
You actually also have to be washed spiritually as well.
Okay.
So like part of the reason that the priesthood is the only ones that's allowed into is they ritualistically daily go through a cleansing ritual to make themselves not only like physically clean, but also like spiritually clean.
Yeah, that's what we have Dr. Bronner's for now.
I'm just going to go ahead and just let people know, like people who are listening to this thinking that I'm going to be like fill in every detail and, like historical context and stuff. I just can't with this one. There are so many numbers and like goat's hair and brass covered whatever wood, like to do anything else, it was just
how
too
much room does like this description take up in the Bible?
Like 4 full chapters of like dimensions.
Yeah. I mean,
and then they do it again a little later.
And one of them is like insanely more detailed than the other. If I remember, like one's like a refresher of the like hard rules.
Yeah. But like I got caught up in like making sure I had the materials and the items and the dimensions.
Yeah.
But all the stuff about like the priests having to cleanse themselves spiritually and stuff, I just don't have the brain capacity for that now.
And that's the thing that I'm interested in. Like Alan's going to be interested in like the fine details of the like construction of things. And I'm going to be like, what's the story? What's the mythos? Of course.
I mean, you don't care that it's a covering of ram skins dyed red. And on top of that, a covering of badger skins.
I do.
Okay.
But because of the story, like I don't, it's more that like, I'm trying to figure out because I don't believe that there was a deity giving these directions.
No.
So somebody,
controversial,
right? But that means somebody went, how do I make this sound like it's coming from an insane god or otherworldly? I was like, I'll take ram skins, and then they have to put badger skins.
So
on
do you
top
remember
of that.
when?
Well, that was the Big Badger lobby.
100% Big Badger was involved.
Do you remember when you were writing like a book report or like an essay in high school and like it was a teacher that actually didn't demand you handwrite it because that was a thing when we were in high school.
Sure. Yeah.
But they would specify like, okay, it had to be 7 pages.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they didn't specify other things. And so you would make that shit
Margins.
double spaced,
Absolutely.
inch 0.5 margins.
Yep. Maybe bump up one.
Courier new font or like typewriter because it was real wide.
A nice big header with your name on it on all pages, and a nice big footer with page numbers.
And so you're doing all these things to like justify
13-point font, maybe
7 pages.
Yeah.
This to me feels like they had a bunch of dudes make a nice temple, but then they had to like justify it or like
that's an interesting.
It had cost overruns or something. And so they went back and got way too detailed in the Bible talking about it to make it sound more like holy and important than it was.
It's really interesting because like
Also, again, this was written like 2,000 years later.
It's like justifying a business expense on your taxes. Like,
Yes.
I mean, I do use it for the business.
Now, we spent $700 on sushi, but it was a business meeting.
right.
Yeah, right.
We're making it was a sales meeting.
We talked over 60% of the time about business.
Yeah.
Right. Well, he was my business partner, and therefore, anytime we talk,
Pretty much.
it's a business meeting.
Yes.
For sure.
That's what this feels like to me. It feels like totally added later to justify it.
That's a very reasonable. It's funny because I'm still stuck in this idea that but like there's parts of this story that in my brain are still literal. I just like swap out that Moses was talking to God, that it's just a megalomaniacal leader going like, build this fucking structure and here's some crazy dimensions to make it seem legit. It's an interesting thing to me. Like all of those details to me just add a validity of deification, like that there is an otherworldly non-human force pushing these things because it's like a sign of religious fervor or loyalty or something.
Or because if a human did it, it would just mean they were like an OCD asshole.
But not even OCD, because like a lot of this stuff is just strange.
Maybe he really hated badgers.
Maybe.
And loved, because there are, let me tell you, so many cherubim. And again, if they had
really into weird ass,
if they had depicted cherubim correctly when I was a child, this would have been far more interesting.
Sure,
because even
terrifying.
It would look
like a Lovecraftian, like
totally
weird fucking temple.
They also specify at points that it's like purple, indigo, and scarlet woven thread.
All
like
three
they
of
like
them?
specify the colors. Yeah.
Oh.
And then it's covered in like gold cherubim, like just fucking everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
And remember, cherubim aren't cute little baby angels.
Right.
No, they are 4-headed, 6-winged,
hooved,
crazy
brass
looking
hooves,
motherfuckers.
I think.
But
Anyway.
but I was gonna say, did you guys see Airheads, the Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi?
Of course.
Absolutely.
On
Okay.
all the time on Comedy Central.
You know how near the end when they're trying to figure out how they're going to get out of this, and so they start like demanding weird shit from the police because that way they can plead insanity. So it's like a football helmet full of cottage cheese and shit like that. Like that's what it feels a little bit like this. Like if they just like add weird shit in here, then we can say, well, God said we need to do it. If it was just like a tent, this is just a normal white tent.
Yeah.
Something would look beer. Anyway,
You
you
can't pluralize the Lone Rangers.
But at the same time, I'm also like,
thank you.
I'm also like always looking for the like nefarious angle. Like and I'm having a hard time figuring out like who's I mean, that's why I said like the jokey, like the Big Badger was behind it. Like who is the person that had something to gain from
Aaron
and Moses. No, it's purely a control thing, because if you look at it from like, this is a people who have for several generations at least have been subjugated as slaves and then moved out. There's indications that the leadership, and like we assume Moses and Aaron, basically applied a whole new set of weird dogma that would basically replace the power vacuum that removing Egypt.
Yeah.
I mean, that
you
was
still need
the
to
gist
like
of,
test their loyalty.
Yeah,
as
Nick, I know this is going to come as a shock, but this is just a lone example of the religious leadership trying to control the masses.
Well, I never.
I know. Also, though, can you imagine? These people have just come from Egypt. They have like dog gods.
That's
and,
true.
Like alligator snakes and just the coolest religion ever.
Yeah.
And then Moses,
the cherubim-
Moses is talking about like thread count.
But I mean, he did put some weird ass cherubim on that.
I guess, but
And you got like, I mean, you're in the desert. You got fire snakes to deal with.
True.
I guess it's like, like you just left Disneyland with your parents on a vacation and you're in the station wagon and your mom's trying to make like Cheez-Its and string cheese sound like this incredible thing.
I
like,
guess,
Moses
yeah.
in the desert.
Yeah.
What's he got to work with?
Yeah,
Sure.
like, hey, everyone, let's play the license plate game.
It's like, oh God, I guess there's
Like,
a lot
maybe
of
you can-
badgers.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
inner sanctum.
So inside the holy place, there is a table of bread called showbread.
Yeah, I didn't look that up. I should have.
Show SHOW.
EW.
Okay, got it.
Hold on, let me click on.
But pronounced show. I always thought it was like, hey, look at this bread. It's our showbread.
And okay, so this is limited. This space is limited to the priests.
The priests.
And how many people are we talking?
I don't know. Not that many.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that big of a space.
Yeah.
And basically the priest who will go into there. Inside there's also a menorah, and I think one other thing, but I can't remember what the other thing is. Oh, an incense. There's an incense thing in there, and essentially they would go in and.
Did you say menorah? Sorry,
Yeah,
I wasn't paying
correct.
attention. I'm reading the Wikipedia article on showbread. Apparently, a more accurate translation is presence bread, because it was
Oh.
bread always meant to be in the presence of God.
Some holy
I
bread.
don't like it.
It's kind of weird because God isn't going to eat it. This is like some cookie shit for Santa.
12 loaves baked from fine flour, arranged in 2 rows / piles on a table standing before God.
2 rows. Piles and rows are very different things.
Each loaf
Depending on
was
how sloppy.
each loaf was to contain 2 omers of flour. We got
Oh,
a
there we go.
new unit of
We're back.
measure. Approximately 4.9 pounds. Whoa.
Wait, each loaf was 4.9 pounds?
Okay, I'm starting to be
This is a fucking huge pile of the row / pile makes more sense.
Yeah,
now.
totally. Yeah. Takes 4 men to load.
The biblical regulations specify that cups of frankincense were to be placed upon the rows of cakes, and
Wait, cakes now?
some cakes / loaves.
Okay.
This is so confusing. Oh, they're left for a week, and then they're replaced with new ones on the Sabbath. So there's always fresh loaves.
Just in case the big guy gets hungry.
Yeah, gets a little peckish.
Yeah.
The Jewish priests were allowed to eat the cakes that had been removed,
well,
That's
there
right.
we go.
so long as they ate them in the holy place.
That you totally know, like that was.
Don't look
not,
at me.
That was not a rule.
Oh my
for like
God.
the first 7 or 8 generations, and then one guy was like, "We can eat it while we're in here, right?"
Yeah.
This reminds me of like working at Starbucks. Like someone would order something and then not eat it, and you'd be like doing dishes and just like eat bits of people's food. As long as you were in the back and no one knew, it was fine.
Yeah. So anyway, in that space, essentially the priesthood would symbolically take the prayers and what am I looking for when you're asking for forgiveness?
Petitions.
Yeah. From the courtyard that the lay people would be giving, and then they would kind of symbolically move them into the holy place to present to God.
Yeah.
Who was in the most holy place, which there was a semi-transparent, translucent.
Hold on, before we get to the most holy place.
Okay.
You need to know that the table was acacia wood.
Oh, acacia.
Acacia.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's
2 cubits in length and a cubit in width and a cubit and a half in height. You shall overlay it with pure gold and make a molding of gold all around. You shall make a frame of a handbreadth all around. You shall make a gold molding for the frame all around. So it's got like molding on molding on molding.
It's like my dad built it.
Zing. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold and put the rings on the 4 corners that are at its 4 legs. The rings shall be close to the frame as holders for the poles to bear the table.
Yep.
You shall make the poles out of, what did you say? Acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. You shall make its dishes, its pans, its pitchers, and its bowls for pouring. You shall make them of pure gold. And you shall set the showbread on the table before me always.
Again, just to clarify, they have to pack this shit up and carry it around with them all the time? Great.
Yes, and thus the rings with the poles.
Yeah.
Also, the Levites have to carry this stuff.
Right. So
they can't use like oxen.
Oh, I see.
This stuff has to be carried by priests.
Which will come up. Some of this will be addressed in the the rest of the Samuel episode.
And I'm not going to get too far in the lampstand, the menorah, because it's insane. So it's hammered. It talks about like, 3 branches out of each side. Like we've seen what that looks like. But 3 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms on 1 branch with ornamental knob and a flower, and 3 bowls made like, just repeating itself. But it's got like leaves of gold and blossoms, and
it's intense.
It's too much.
So
too much.
There is at the back of this a semi-translucent veil
woven of blue, purple, and scarlet thread.
There's that, and behind that is the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay.
The Ark of the Covenant, and in between like the angels is where the like literal presence of God is. Okay. And the only person allowed into there is the high priest.
Okay.
And so the priesthood.
That's one person.
Correct.
Yeah.
One
and only
person.
on like special occasions.
Right. I think it's like literally like once or twice a year.
Right.
And they
just don't go in that room, except when they have to like break it down. So I'm a little confused about that.
And that's okay. So God, the presence of, like, I remember this, the presence of God leaves.
Oh, right.
And they break it down.
Oh.
They put they move, they put it all back up.
Do they do like a 5 minutes?
Right.
5 minute warning.
Exactly.
Or is it God leaving that tells them,
Sure. I guess we're moving.
I guess we're leaving.
Right. Shit. I just got, all right. It's like, I finally got this camp spot across from the falafel stand. We like begged that guy to come with us.
I just put out the new showbread.
Yeah.
Now it's going to get all dusty.
Yeah. So, so basically I think once or twice a year, the idea is that, so like the priests would come in daily and like do their thing with the incense and all this and bring the whatever supplications came in. But then once a year they'd have like the Day of Atonement where they just like go through tons, like everybody would just go through. Like this was when Hannah was asking for kids, was one of these things where everybody's like there. And so they
it's open house.
Right. But at that point it would kind of culminate with the high priest taking those, like symbolically taking those prayers and moving them into the presence of God, going, here you go. Your problems now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine on a day like that with the burnt offerings outside?
Oh,
it would either smell terrible or like barbecue.
Both.
Just at the same time.
But also you've got like incense, like massive amounts of incense going as well. Like
there's like a 250,000 people. If they're all like sacrificing things on one day, they're just cranking them.
But you're also it's like you're smelling charred meat, but you're also smelling like blood. You're smelling like
blood, lots of blood, because they drain the blood.
Right. So there's
got to be like
it would be
pools
an
of blood.
assault on your senses.
Yeah.
As a side note, while I was reading mostly Wikipedia for this, I had to click on one thing, and it was because they were talking about like weird things they use the tabernacle for. And one thing was
mostly sex dungeons.
Of course.
This is sex related.
Oh, fuck.
If a husband accused his wife of being adulterous, they made this thing of
like a glory hole.
No, of holy water and sand from the temple.
Yeah.
And made her drink it. and it was supposed to make
And if she floats, she's a witch?
No, it was supposed to make, if she was guilty, if she was not guilty, God wouldn't do anything with it. If she was guilty, it would give her an upset stomach and make her leg explode. And at the same time,
hold on.
The person, and by leg, a lot of people think like uterus, womb, and at the same time, the man she was philandering with would just die somewhere.
Whoa.
I was like, this is rad.
Yeah.
That was not shared with us as kids.
That's fun.
Well, that's so funny because that's one of those like weird witchcraft things
know.
that's like, wait a minute.
I think
you
that's-
do believe in some
I
like
think that's not really like, we don't talk about all that stuff in Christianity.
Right, because we don't
There's
do
another
that.
thing where if you have like, do you remember we talked about leprosy
No, we just excommunicate you quietly and you never...
and how it wasn't actually probably leprosy?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
any skin condition or
Yeah.
like something wrong with your house.
Philandering was just any time you do anything.
Well, so with the leprosy thing, to be cured for that, you weren't allowed inside the temple or inside the courtyard because you were unclean. And so you would have to do all these things where you like shave your head and then like make an offering and like wait 7 days and then shave your whole body again. And then because you had to make a sacrifice, but also weren't allowed inside to make the sacrifice, the priest would make the sacrifice for you and you'd stick your little wounded through the front gate and they would like dab blood from the sacrifice on it. So you'd stick all like your
Nub.
sores like just through the tent and they'd like dab blood on it. Jeez. I'm probably not doing this correctly, but it's still like, whoa,
I'm also
it's so
realizing
weird. Just sticking all my warts through a temple wall.
I don't remember how this really... We forgot somewhere in here is the scapegoat and I've completely forgot all about it.
I don't know if that's...
It's a part of these rituals though.
It is. And I was just really reading about the actual physical building.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Any of the rituals. So
I'm going to do it quick because it is applicable and it's a word we still use.
Yeah.
So scapegoat literally comes from this idea, and I don't remember exactly where it falls, but I think it's during that big day of atonement where they like would do where the entire children of Israel would go through. The idea is that they've been doing sacrifices all day, but they take one goat and they transfer all of the sins of the entire group to this goat and then essentially abandon it in the desert.
Oh.
Like but I don't remember.
Yeah.
The problem is like, I don't know how to connect that to exactly how it is. I know that they transfer all of the sins to it and then they just like abandon it in the desert. And the idea is like it wanders away and dies.
Sure.
Because Jesus is referred to both as the scapegoat and both as the lamb that's sacrificed.
Yeah.
In different ways. And the idea being like, we're symbolically saying everything we've done wrong is on this one individual goat. And we are,
despite their pristine innocence.
right.
Yeah.
And the idea being that it's a little bit like that there's that idea floated in I think it's the 70s where it was an idea for the nuclear launch codes. They were trying to deter people from like going nuclear, the president from going nuclear. So one of the ideas was you actually put the nuclear launch codes in a capsule and you surgically inserted it inside a person who was a volunteer and was close personally to the president, so that they would literally have to kill the individual with their hands, would have to kill one individual in order to get the codes, to get the idea across. It was trying to get the idea across of like, if you can't take the life of this one individual, you should not be allowed to take the lives of how many billions of people.
that sounds like a sci-fi premise.
It's a 100% real thing that was proposed and then never went anywhere. But
I like it.
yeah, no, I actually think like morally makes a lot of sense. So in the most holy place is the Ark of the Covenant, which is like, you've seen Raiders, you kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
There are some things about the Ark of the Covenant. Nobody, except for the high priest, I believe, can touch it.
Okay.
And I believe, and Alan, do you know what? We're going to talk about the Ark of the Covenant next week, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then never mind.
Great.
I'm not going to tell you what's in it. There's stuff in it.
So to recap, we have a movie theater tent wall, and then we have a barbecue pit.
Yep.
And a hand washing station.
Yep.
Correct.
And then we have a badger tent.
Yes.
With a table of bread.
Yep.
And a candlestick.
And an incense.
And an incense burner.
Yep.
And then we have a tent within a tent wall. And that has the ark.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's all just a bunch of like linen and badgers.
And somewhere there's a very guilty goat.
Correct.
And there's a guilty goat out in the desert.
Around. And I should have said, like, one of the things when you go into the holy place, you could theoretically, the or not theoretically, but mythologically, the presence of the Lord would be incredibly, it read as bright. And so so even the priests were still uncomfortable when they were in the holy place, because like God's glory would, like, goodness would be kind of shining through this veil. And that was the only thing protecting them. So basically that thin veil was enough to like turn down
sunglasses.
Yeah. It was sunglasses to be able to withstand.
Or like the solar shades to watch an eclipse.
Exactly. But like, and so when the high priest went in there, he was taking the full brunt of God.
Really just wanted to eat some showbread.
Right.
It's the thing that is always weird to me about this entire thing is like somehow an all-powerful God can't figure out how to turn down his godliness enough that humans
just like, like.
Right. Or maybe just like dictate a law of the universe that when he interacts with any one of his creations that he doesn't kill them.
Yeah, that's true, because this version of God is like killed on sight. But
unless you're Moses and he comes to you in a bush and demands some foreskins.
Right. That's true. Although Moses also saw all of God, sort of.
Yeah.
That one time.
But didn't die. He wasn't and he wasn't clean. Like there's like all these
in God's back.
Probably. Like, that's the thing, is like we make up all of these things, like these inconsistencies are like, it's like you are in the presence of God, you will die, period. Except for this part, except for this person, except for this person, except for this person. It's like, but everybody else, you've got to be perfectly, completely clean. And if you're not perfectly clean, you will die just in the presence of God.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I mean, I know I'm trying to bring logic to a religion fight, but still it's.
I just think it's interesting that the whole, like one of the big tenets of, it's like the first couple of the 10 Commandments are anti-idol, and they're basically creating like these idol stand-ins. There's like the pillar is the presence of God. The ark is the presence of God. I'm sure they're just trying to appease people, like give them something to.
Well, yeah, it's an idol, but there's also like God's kind of hovering around it.
Right. It's not the object. It's the aura around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when they have crosses at Christian churches and like people turn towards the cross to pray. I'm like,
I will say,
great.
When I was a kid, our church built a brand new church, and there was a insanely long argument about whether or not there was going to be a cross, either on the steeple or in any way, because of the idol conversations. Like we don't do idols.
Oh. I wonder if my grandpa was part of that, because my grandpa built that church.
Right.
Weird tie-in. My grandpa built Adam's church.
I think we talked about that.
Not my church, but
the church Adam went to.
Yeah.
Well, it's more my church, I guess. My grandpa built it.
I mean, if you're doing that, we paid for his services. So it's my church again.
He probably volunteered.
Oh, really?
Well, he was a retired pastor.
Oh, yeah. All right. None of this matters.
No.
That's the Tabernacle.
This whole podcast doesn't matter. we're splitting goat hairs at this point.
It's true.
Also, like, are badgers a desert creature?
I was going to say, are there badgers in
Are these
Israel?
like I guess you see honey badgers. Like
I have some problems with, in general, sourcing and carrying all of this stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of people, but man,
I'm guessing that the sourcing is one of those things where like that's 100% something that came in way later. Like it was initially just whatever sticks and fabric they found, and then like as the legend grew, and actually we were talking about this, how we were like, you were talking about like God was applying more and more rules, like he did it in such a way that, and systematically in a way that the Jewish culture at that point, then it became a self-perpetuating thing that by the time they got to the Jesus's time period, they had created this insane system of rules that was untenable. And so I would completely imagine that same logic, basically, they would introduce a new item and then this just became canon and they projected back. And so like there may not have been like all of these stipulations. Like it originally was just, they built out of acacia because acacia was the wood that they had.
Well, but also like what happened is, the God gave them the 10 Commandments, and one of those was you rest on the Sabbath.
Right.
And then people were like, yeah, but like I like to bake bread. So is that restful, or can I not cook food?
Well, I mean, no, you can't.
Exactly. But like it was people asking questions. They just had to make more and more and more and more and more rules.
And so aside from this tribe and this instance, is this supposed to be something that is then replicated elsewhere?
The Tabernacle?
The Tabernacle?
No.
Like, are you supposed to do this occasionally?
So the Tabernacle, it went through the desert.
Yeah.
And then it stopped at Shiloh.
Okay.
It was there for about 400-ish years. David moved it briefly to Gibeon.
Right.
Just briefly, because it was, as you'll find out why. And then David's son, Solomon, built a banging temple down in Jerusalem, and it was moved there until like
basically the Romans.
Okay.
Well, no, basically it was destroyed.
the Romans?
The Roman. That's like, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that destroyed the temple, of course. And there's still the temple on the mount in Jerusalem, which it's got significance from both like Muslim culture and
and there's like
Christian culture and Jewish culture.
There's been these things that like for a while.
But yeah, there's only one.
Yeah.
And it's my ignorance and my lack of study, but like at some point in Jewish religious tradition, they abandoned the sacrifice, at least the literal sacrificial practice. Cause I don't believe, and maybe that's the things that maybe like at synagogues around the US, people are like slitting the throats. I feel like there would be, like PETA would be pretty pissed if they were just like, slaughtering sheep left and right.
Yeah.
So at some point this became a metaphorical practice and no longer a literal practice. And I don't know where in history that happened. But like,
which is a shame because those are probably a lot of the same folks that are against cloning. And if they did their own cloning, they could, just like, here we go. We got Dolly again this week. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yeah. We find the perfect sheep.
Yep.
And just replicate it. So there's a couple of things, and I just want to gloss over them because they play heavy.
Well, I want to answer next question a little bit first. So yes, there's only one tabernacle.
Yeah.
Sort of. But like, synagogues still are often built with the Torah in a specific spot. That's like, it's like a reference to the most holy places.
Sure.
And then like even Catholic churches have, the hand, like the holy water, and then, like an altar up front.
Incense.
And there's incense.
Yeah.
So like,
there are vestiges of it.
yeah,
but also
there's
like
references.
Like incense is also just common in religious practices across the board, like regardless of,
And gold
and altars and like all of these things are just, religious paraphernalia that exist.
I read another interesting thing which this doesn't make any sense, but do you know how a lot of like churches in the 60s and 70s are like those giant A-frames?
Yeah.
Some people say that's a tent reference,
No.
which I think is a stretch. But they are cool looking.
They are. Yeah.
They're my favorite.
So additionally, to kind of answer your question as well, the death of Jesus for Christendom also ends the entire. So essentially the entire practice of the tabernacle was to be a forgiveness of sins, and to the way that you commune with God. Those two things theoretically happened with the death of Jesus, which we'll cover more presumably whenever we cover the crucifixion. There's a couple of like specific. I was going to say historical, but like apocryphal, semi-historical events.
Sure.
Like there's things that are like purported to have happened that Christians like hang a lot of meaning on.
Yeah.
I don't that are related specifically to the tabernacle.
Got it.
That happened, that basically the way the Christians interpret it is that that symbolizes the end of the tabernacle system. We don't need to sacrifice because Jesus did the ultimate sacrifice. Yeah. B, we also can directly commune with God through prayer. We no longer have to go through the priest.
Yeah.
We can basically talk directly to Jesus, who is God.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things
I see.
That's what dismantled.
I just wondered because you had mentioned that people like built, like some churches build them more like scale models or whatever.
Oh, right.
It's more like it's
okay. So yes, we did mention that on the top.
It's religious cosplay.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Adam, have you built a tabernacle?
I'm sure I did, like out of popsicle sticks at some point.
Absolutely. I think I would use toothpicks.
Rather than like gingerbread house.
It would have been like a Sabbath afternoon activity, not like it wouldn't have been something my parents would have put us through.
Yeah.
It might have been for school
me,
or VBS. Might have been for a vacation
but like to
Bible
learn,
school.
and then they would be like on display. Like everyone's little tabernacle would be on display for a couple months till they got all dusty and someone threw them away. But I've definitely built little tiny models with like tiny little fake bread and tiny little candlesticks.
I highly recommend. There are tons of YouTube channels where very zealous people with a lot of land will build like one-to-one models of the.
And you could, because the Bible is so specific.
Yeah. But like I watched one today just kind of as a refresher, and it was stellar.
You know they're using like pine and gold spray paint.
Oh, for sure. But no. So here, get this. So like it starts. First off, it's like this, drone footage of like slowly flying over this, and like the wind is blowing, and it looks like it's probably somewhere in California, just because there's like palm trees and stuff around, and it's definitely not the Holy Land. And there's like a track house building, like development in the distance. But like
there's neighbors going, "What the fuck is that guy doing?"
That's so weird. But then it's like
they're more pissed that he's flying a drone,
right,
than that he built a scale tabernacle.
But then they're doing like it's really well shot in the sense that like it's all Steadicam footage or like slider footage.
Yeah.
But like they have. And my favorite illusion was they had the altar there made out of what looked like plastic. And there was a pile of hay and 2 sheep there, like just eating the hay as the slider. And then they cut to a guy putting blood on
wow.
with his fingers, just like wiping it. But like they never showed the sheep again.
Right.
And I just like you just insinuated you just slaughtered those sheep, but you also didn't want to like show dead sheep. And like, I like, how far did you take this?
Right.
And then, and I was telling
Nick, they do it all the way at least once.
I know, right? See, this is the thing. They went inside.
By
the way, the bread that they had, nowhere near that big. Like, I'm just saying.
Some big bread.
So they go inside. They had what looked like a plastic menorah. Everything looked like plastic. And then they actually went into the holy place.
Whoa.
Which I was kind of like, a lot of this stuff, I was like, when they do these models, like it feels like we're breaking some rule. Anyway,
if you're religious enough to make this model,
right? Like
you should feel weird about entering the Holy of Holies.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they go in there, and the chef's kiss of this entire video was that it was totally a prop ripoff of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Sure.
Like it wasn't a biblical referenced one. It was literally just somebody had followed, the RFP.
Yeah.
RFP?
Did the video like white out because it was like whoosh,
no, see, that would have been great.
That's only when you open it. Did they open it?
You know what? I closed the window at that point. They got to it. I laughed and I yelled to my wife. I said, "This was the funniest thing I've seen in a while."
I just like the idea.
We're gonna watch it.
I just like the idea of like a MTV Cribs style like tabernacle.
This is my ark.
All right. Yeah. Now get out of here. I got to open an ark.
Yeah. Inner sanctum, and this is where all the magic happens.
Yeah. This is my guest tabernacle.
Yeah. Jason Schwartzman is just in the background for some reason.
Yes. Hey, thank you so much for listening. You can follow us at KJVPod on both Twitter and Instagram to keep up with what we're doing. You probably noticed a couple of weeks ago, we swapped out our blacked out artwork for the original artwork. Obviously, that doesn't mean that racism has been fixed at all.
Let me check real quick. No.
It turns out very little has pragmatically changed.
Yeah.
But we obviously very much still care.
Yeah, totally. We switched the album art back and put our normal link for the podcast so that you can find episodes.
Right.
2 things. But we still very much this week would ask that you make an effort to continue on educating yourself, donate if you can, organize locally if you can. I know Adam has a link. I'm going to throw one at you for the Community Justice Exchange. It's just communityjusticeexchange.org. There's a link right at the top right corner for the National Bail Fund Network.
Oh, nice.
And that gives you a whole directory of community bail funds. So, you can get as hyper local focused as you can using that link.
That's awesome. I mean, I was just, the couple that I have, there's obviously blacklivesmatter.com is a good, but it tends to be a little more kind of broad. And then the one that we've been kind of pushing is blacklivesmatter.carrd.com. And it has a bunch of resources, a bunch of information about protesting as well. Not just, it's also, like donation to different bail funds, donation to different funds and memorial funds, et cetera. But also kind of protesting information if you are of that persuasion.
Yeah. As with much else, this thing ain't over.
No. And I mean, Alan was mentioning there's some good things that are beginning to, it seems like there are some things that are beginning to change, but let's keep that ball rolling. So yeah, if you can donate, if you have time and can help in other ways, please do.
Totally. That's our ask.
Yeah. Thanks to Mascaras and Resurrection Records for the use of our theme song, Kixadi, off the album El Moran. And this week's Siege Records artist, we're having a guest one, is Memifer off their album, The Brilliant Tabernacle. We got permission to use a really awesome track off that, so stay tuned for that. You can find links to these songs, stickers, We've got for sale a reminder. There are Jesus spitting lizards stickers for $1 plus shipping. Or
no, inclusive of shipping.
Inclusive shipping, not of tax.
Correct.
That was the other thing. It's like, so, $1 plus tax, whichever that will be in your area. There's something else on our website.
There's an Easter egg on there where you'll find some nudes.
Oh, totally. Bunch of nudes. And
click around.
If you look for you'll also find secret links to the back end of the CIA, on the movie, The Net. Just look for the weird, pound symbol icon.
Yeah, totally. You remember, I used to look up Easter eggs on the DVDs that I bought.
Yeah.
Do you remember doing that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my all-time, I still think about it frequently when I buy physical media. What if there's anything hidden on here?
Yeah. No, it's a weird thing that there was a blip of history, or of movie history where DVD extras were just a thing. And then an extension of that were these weird bloopers, or not bloopers, but Easter eggs.
Yeah.
It's a thing
on the menu, if you scroll over into Jim Carrey's eye,
right,
you'll get
there's a weird
deleted scene from Bruce Almighty.
And it's also sometimes it would be stuff that was there was no way that this would ever be shared. Anyway,
yeah,
that's the thing that no one will ever experience.
Nope.
And I miss that. You can find these stuff at kingjamesvirgin.com. I don't think I actually said the website. kingjamesvirgin.com.
That'll do it for us this week. Until next week, go eat your heavy bread in the shame hole.
Sonic Bazaar.